What's the difference between the table?
Guess how quickly we walked into
Fewer people, but we're much cooler.
You're the cooler table.
We are the cooler.
Okay, hi guys.
Hello.
Are you at space.com?
I am at space.com.
I have a word for you
Oh, yeah?
afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no. It's it has to do with some headlines that were irresponsible.
Okay, well, I'll carry that.
Yeah, I assume the headline person is not the same person who writes the article.
Generally, no, but I don't want to take up everyone's time.
Okay.
Since we don't have a lot.
Yeah, see, she's deflecting that. She don't want to do it.
Oh, you can tell me now. I don't care.
No, go on. Okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah,
So
go ahead.
this season, they're really you guys are kind of really pushing things a little bit more than you did last season.
Well, so it's I'm learning why so many movies have sequels, whether or not they should have a sequel. It's that you know how to do it. You already know what the characters are. You already know what the music should sound like. You already know. So there's certain efficiencies that come in. So even with the same budget, you're now at least 30% more efficient. So you can tell a richer story with more locations, and everyone knows how to work with one another. So this is a very real force operating on this season. So that's number one. Number two, and I know everybody says this, but this is really true this time. This next season is the best of all three cosmos. They always say that, okay? I told you I had a cameo in Sharknado 6. And they said, this is the best of the Sharknadoes. It's like, excuse me. Just who are you kidding here, right? Just so this one is much more introspective. It's more emotional. I think I can communicate emotion better today than 4 years ago. I'm not an actor, and things that we take for granted that an actor can do, that's actually sort of learning. So it's not just words. There's sort of spirit energy in it related to what is our relationship to nature, what is our relationship to Earth. Will we ever become better shepherds of our civilization than we are today? Which may be a prerequisite to living far into the future? Or will we just go extinct, like so many other mammals do, after their tenure on Earth has been exhausted? So, Cosmos Possible Worlds, that subtitle, is an exploration, knowing what we know from other worlds in the galaxy and in the universe. It's an exploration of what we can do about our own world. It's a lot of allegory and reflective storytelling. Like, look at this planet. It used to have these conditions, now it doesn't. Something happened and it changed, and now it's full of poisonous gases, but it used to be something else. Why? And you hope and expect that people say, wow, if that had a turning point on that planet, what's going on our planet? So yeah, that's...
So we live in an age where information is so readily available at our fingertips, yet so many people turn away from the truth and rely mostly on belief. Why do you think it's so easy for people to ignore the facts that are out there and just kind of rely mainly on hearsay or things they see on Facebook?
I want to give an easy cop-out answer. And I hate it when other people give this answer, but so I'm nonetheless going to give this answer. It's a failure of the education system to teach people what science is and how and why it works, and why the methods and tools of science establish what is objectively true in the world. Now, I just uttered 3 sentences, none of which came out in any science class you've ever taken. You take a science class, well, here's a satchel of facts. Here, learn this. They will test you with a bubble dot answer sheet next week. And then you're done, you sell the textbook back, and then you move on. So, if science were also taught in a way where you learn that it's a means of querying nature. And once it's queried in the ways that have been hard-earned and established, you can say this is true and that is not true. This is true, this might be true, we need more evidence. It's not how loudly you argue this point. It's what is the quality of the evidence in support of it. What is evidence anyway? Why should I recognize this evidence over that evidence? Why should I recognize this artifact of the scene rather than your eyewitness testimony? We know from psychology that eyewitness testimony is one of the lowest forms of evidence you could possibly put forward, given its susceptibility to misinterpretation. Generally in the courts, they prefer multiple people corroborating, so that helps. But ideally you want an artifact, okay? Then it's not susceptible to we know the weaknesses of the human mind. All this is built into our efforts to establish what is true and what is not. It's built in. So that's not taught. So what I would want is, if you're going to say, I don't care about global warming, we're an elective democracy, and if you get elected because you don't care about global warming, here's what I would rather you said. I recognize what the scientists said. I'm not denying that. I just don't care. I care more about the 5-year profit plan digging the rest of the coal out of the earth than I care about the 10-year profit plan of solar panels or wind or alternative energy. That would be an honest statement. They're not denying the facts. They're bringing whatever is their political, cultural take on a political decision, on a legislative decision. So that's a very different world. Then you're just arguing politics at that point. That's what should happen. That's how it always used to happen. 1960s, nobody was arguing whether the science was true. And it's not like we had fewer religious people back then. So it's not about religious belief in science. It's about science establishing objective truths and you worshiping whoever you want in your ways that your religion prescribed. Now, if your religion says the universe must be 6,000 years old and it was created in 6 days, I will tell you that is an objectively false statement. So it has no place in the science classroom. It's part of a belief system. Put it in classes that are about belief systems, like the religion class. You don't see scientists knocking down the Sunday school door telling the preacher what to preach. Atheists don't even do that. But you have them trying to knock down the science classroom. So you want to know about the future? If they're successful knocking down all the science classroom, then there is no science foundation in the United States. And what is already bad will get worse. It will keep sliding down a cliff with nothing to grab onto while the rest of the world passes us by. Have a nice day. Yes.
Can science media like Cosmos have an effect on that, or do you really need the fundamental thing to start
That's a
with?
great question. I, as an educator, you've never seen me debate anyone. I did a little thing against B.O.B. with the flat earth, but that's because he was tweeting, I'm using laws of physics to... That's called me out. If you're going to say you're using laws of physics, you're not. So I didn't want his people to think that he was using laws of physics. That's the only time. I don't debate crystal healers or astrologers. I don't debate any of that. What I attempt to do is empower people's capacity for thought. And when you do that, then you derive your own conclusion from those thoughts. Rather, you are empowered to see what is true. And when you reach that point, it no longer requires reference to me. You don't have to say, oh, this is true because Tyson said so. No, this is true because here's why. And you take ownership of that truth. So when I have succeeded as an educator, that's what I've accomplished. People think all you have to do is tell someone they're wrong, and then no, that's not how the brain works. The brain will dig in and defend what it wants to be true, even in the face of what is true, because of whatever cultural, social, religious, political bias they carry. They need to know that you don't have a choice in what is objectively true in the world. And to stand in denial of it, I give a good example. It's like this week you gained 3 pounds because you ate too much. And next week you say, I want to repeal the law of gravity because I gained weight. You don't have that option. It's a fundamentally different kind of truth. Question?
So, as next season of Cosmos' Possible Worlds, that's looking further into the reaches of space than previously, possibly looking at hypothetical alien civilizations with within light travel and such. So,
All that's correct.
I'm wondering if we can get your thoughts on Trump's Space Force, because down the line that seems like the only way the space exploration can go.
So, let me just affirm that just because it came out of Trump's mouth doesn't require that it be crazy.
Right.
And Space Force has been around. The idea's been around for a while. I remember proposing it 17 years ago in committee in Washington, in a committee studying a commission, officially it was called, studying the future of the aerospace industry. Because it was on hard times, and the government wanted us to explore what consequences would befall all of us if we lose our aerospace industry to Airbus and Europe and this sort of thing. What effect would it have on our health, our wealth, and our security, our transportation, our commerce? So the question was,
It's
Space Force.
Yeah.
The Space Force. So we already have a Space Force. It's called the U.S. Space Command. And it's a wholly owned division of the Air Force. So what happens with Space Force, they would take that, shift it over, so it's an accounting, move the columns to another page. They add a few things. I would add asteroid defense. I mean, why not? I might throw, why not? Why not throw in cleaning up space debris? If I'm doing commerce in space, I'd want my military to protect that. It not only protect your borders, but they also protect your assets and your interests, cultural and economic interests. So that's what it would do. Now, the speeches given, Trump's speech, and especially the Pence speech, there was a lot of bicep flexing in there. We don't want to just be there. We want to dominate. And we've been in space since the 1960s. The second Gulf War was enabled by space assets, entirely. Primarily by the GPS satellites launched by the Air Force. The command and control, now it knows where the troop movement is, use weather satellites to plan troop movements in climate and in temperatures that are not hostile to your soldiers. You would, missile targeting, all of this was enabled by space assets. So you say, well, I don't want weapons in space. We already have weapons in space if you include reconnaissance satellites that enable weapon deployment on the ground. We've had that since the 60s. This would just sort of codify it. Now, do we need it to begin the exploration of space? Actually, the history of this exercise says yes. Private enterprise has never done anything singularly expensive, uniquely dangerous, with uncertain ROI until governments do it first. Governments have a longer time horizon over which they can decide, over which they can wait for the return on investment. So the first Europeans to the New World was not the Dutch East India Trading Company. It was Columbus, funded by Spain, not even by Italy. Columbus funded by Spain, and give them a satchel of flags. Plant these every place you go. Find a shorter trade route to India. There was hegemony and economics driving that voyage. Once he found out, Earth has a known size, takes this long to get there, this long to get back, you start to mitigate the risks with this knowledge. Then you can make a sensible pitch to do a commercial. So and like I said, countries have deeper pockets than corporations do. So it may be that the Space Force is the launch pad, literal and figurative launch pad, for businesses to reach farther out in space. Because right now, when SpaceX took cargo to the space station, headlines, new era in space exploration opens up. Excuse me, they took fucking cargo to the space station. Can we be real here? Elon is not going to be the first to go to Mars unless we pay him to do that. There's no business model to go to Mars. We're going to say, oh, China's going to put military bases on Mars. We better go too. Oh, we don't have a ship. And Elon says, I have a ship. We'll totally buy a ship. But for him to say, no. Not if anyone who has invested in his company wants a return on that investment. Although Elon has comically said, you want to know how to make a large fortune in space? No, sorry, I messed up. You want to make a small fortune in space? Start with a large fortune.
Great. That's all we have time for.
Yeah, okay.
And what's the headline?
What headline?
That space.com that you want.
Oh, it's over the years, for example, you're giving the supermoon irrationally large attention for something that is microscopically larger than the full moon that preceded it a month earlier.
Yep.
I like keeping the word super for Superman, Super Mario, Supernova. You should. There's enough things going on in space. You don't have to lie about what is an interesting story by punching up a headline that's unnecessary. It should be. It's all hype. Because you know what happens during the supermoon? People bring out their telephoto lenses and photograph the moon. And then they print the telephoto photo and say, look how big the moon is with their 400 millimeter lens. Try taking a picture of that same fucking moon with your cell phone. Just do it. Okay? It's this little thing. Do you realize you can take a straw and look at a full moon through a straw? And it can easily fit inside the straw of the full moon. Okay? So it's an occasion not to. Because I've heard people say it's a reason to get people out to look up. It's a moon. Of course they're going to look up. It doesn't matter. And they'll also look up if you say it's not much bigger than the other ones, and put the size of the previous full moon that was not labeled a full moon 1 month earlier, and put it next to it. It's the difference between a 16-inch pizza and a 16.1-inch pizza.
Yep.
That's the difference. You don't put it next to a small full moon the month before that was not labeled supermoon. Show them that moon.
All right.
Okay?
Yep.
A. And so I expect more from space.com. Second, you ready?
Yes.
You ready? This headline came in 2012. Oh, remember 2012? When the world was going to end? Okay. Space.com. You are fucking space.com. You understand me? Okay. What is space.com? Has a solar eruption. The largest in 7 years. Okay, excuse me. The sun goes through an 11-year cycle. Every 11 years it has the largest solar storms there's been since the previous solar cycle. Okay? So to use a time frame that's smaller than the cycle of the sun itself and say it's the biggest storm in that time, that's like me taking 3 steps to the left and say, I've never been this close to New Jersey before.
No, I got you on that one.
All right, nailed it.
You're going to report this?
No, but I will.
She will relay. I would see various.
I would actually love to quote you on the supermoon thing next time one comes around, if that's all right, without the swearing.
No, then I'll be viewed as like some spoil sport because everyone wants to be excited about it.
You are one, so.
No, I'm a reality sport. Oh, hey.
I have a 9-year-old daughter who
You have a Sharpie? Give me
loves.
a Sharpie.
I don't have a Sharpie.
Oh,
You have a
hey,
Sharpie. Oh,
you, hey.
see, you're the man. You are the man.
There you go.
Absolutely.
So who's this for?
Thank you. Jojo. Jojo.
Your life is calm.
JoJo dance.
No, that was a fist bump.
Okay, I'll take it.
That to Jojo. I saw that on Broadway. When was this? Like the 80s or something? You must be an old fart.
I am. He catches on quick.
Yeah.
He's observant.
It's funny because you can drop some hints that would just go unnoticed by people who don't know, but are fully grasped by those who do.
Yes.
So
This morning I was asked in one of the panels about what theory would you say applied, and I just said relativity. It was a one-word answer.
yeah.
But I wanted to come say hello. My name is Luke Perry. I'm an actor, and I often see you on Bill Maher.
Oh,
Your eloquence for the science, it's invaluable.
well, at Bill Maher, there's usually a lot of hot air, so I just like wait for it and then cut in and then pull back out.
I see what I see. You're a pro at it.
Okay, well, thank you. No, thanks for even noticing that because no, stop. I gotta get no thanks because I actually do host homework before I go on any show that has a host. When I was first on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, I said, this guy's smart, he's clever, he's witty, he's funny, and half the time people are like deer in the headlights because the politician wants to get their boilerplate out and he's dancing around him and won't let. I said that's not going to happen to me. I timed the average of how long it takes him to listen to you before he interrupts you with a comedic quip. I got the rhythm of that, and that was about 7 seconds. So I said, okay, if I'm going to communicate, I need to put it all within 7-second bits, so that when he does interrupt, I have a full thought that's already been communicated. He now has a cool joke, and now both of those can live together side by side without me saying, "Oh, wait a minute, let me finish my first thing."
Yeah, and one
then
not
he goes,
detracting from the other.
and then he's got another thing, and it's just it becomes a maelstrom. So thank you for noticing.
I've seen you done very well. No, I appreciate
All right,
the time.
good.
I always want to say hi.
The scientific method, right there.
Yeah. You spend enough on the pen, comes out that way every time. That guy said he was Luke Perry?
Yeah, that's Luke Perry.
That was legit.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I was looking for Brenda for a second.
Right, 'cause that's like Luke. I know the name, but he's like an old guy now.
You remember him from TV like me.
It was like a high school thing. Right. Yeah, I know, as they always are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In his character was like in his one.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We went over to take a picture with him.
You got to give the actors access to each other, otherwise, because that's a community. It's a. What's days today?
The 7th
Okay.
is the last one. This is the napkin.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tyson.
Okay. All right.
Amazing meeting.
Oh, good. Excellent. Thanks.
I'm on my way back to the gym.
Go,
right
go
now.
back to the gym right now. You can't afford any of it. Right. And don't eat anything along the way.
I won't. Just protein.
Yeah. What's your favorite protein?
Oh, yeah, wait.
But it's so boring.
Yeah. But
Oh, you mix it in
I put
with
fruits
other stuff that isn't
and
boring. That's
ice
what you do.
and some almond milk.
Yeah.
Shake.
Yeah. Okay. Almond milk is remarkably non-nutritious. So have you ever read the nutrition label of almond milk?
Yeah.
Just check it out.
It's almond juice. But they won't sell almond juice.
Well, no, right? All right, stay in shape.
You take care.
How old are you now? How old are you?
34.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Usually it's fading by then. You're hanging on. It's 40. That's when you got to look again. Reassess at 40.
All right. I'll come over to Ontario.
I'm just saying.
I'll show you.
Okay. And do you have kids?
No.
Okay. See, that's another thing, right? When you would have worked out night, you're playing with the kids, right? And then, did you see my tweet about my son? Okay.
Which one?
No, on my birthday, I tweeted. Okay. I knew I was old when. You ready?
Oh.
One of them is, I knew I was old when I simultaneously could no longer pick up my son Nor did I want to pick up my son.
Right? There was
Because
a
it's two
speeding
things
out
going
of the
on.
light.
You're getting weaker, and your growing children are getting heavier. And you're picking them up every time, but it's a double race to not happen. And so you reach a point where you say, oh, no, I'm not doing this. And that was the last day you will ever pick up your children. Okay?
It's like a tiny kettlebell.
Yeah, but there's no 100-pound. No, are there 100-pound kettlebells?
Yeah.
Not
I mean,
common.
not that I use.
Well, then you get frail enough so that and they get strong enough that they can pick you
Then
up.
they pick you up. Yeah, okay.
I did see the one about not speeding out of the light.
Oh yeah, that one got a lot of
I like
circulation.
that one.
Let me give you my card.
It's been a pleasure. It's like fun. Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
I'm just cruising. Okay, man, we got you. All right, thanks.
Thanks
Trying
very
to get
much.
destination B.
So look for that was one of like 30 tweets,
Okay.
but that one got the most forwarded. So that's probably why you saw that and none of the others. But it's one lessons for getting older is read all this.